Men will fuck anything. Like, the gatekeeping of men, I've lived through the era where, like, people actively say, like, men will never sleep with a trans woman. They don't like that. They're not into that. You're
Yeah,
man.
bullshit.
And I'm like, they
Bullshit.
will sleep with your couch. When you're not home, they're humping your couch.
Yeah.
And they're humping
Yep.
your drawers and your underwear, and they're wearing your underwear. They're wearing your lingerie. They're wearing your wigs. They're wearing all your stuff. They're doing everything that you think that they wouldn't do. So give me something else.
There's something coming over me. I never ever felt so free. I'm flying out the energy. Yeah, I'm feeling kind of crazy. Everything's so amazing. Yeah, I jump so high. I hit the sky. I can't believe I'm so happy. Yeah, I'm feeling good. Never thought I could be so big, but it's all so good. Yeah.
I'm Sammy Amounts. This is Happy Slut. Welcome back, Pine Cones. Okay, before we get into this week's guest, who is so exciting, and you might remember she was supposed to be on 2 weeks ago, but there were technical difficulties that got worked out. Thank you to the team at Riverside for helping me fix that issue. Before we get to that, though, I want to thank the people who went and left reviews after last week's episode. I see you. I feel your love. Thank you so much. For the rest of you, there is time. There's ample time. You've got the whole future to do this, but maybe you want to do it now. Go onto whatever podcast platform you're listening on, click the review button, leave a 5-star review, write something about the show that you really enjoy if it gives you an opportunity to write anything. And know that you have just done a really good turn for an independent artist who is out here making something for free right now, because your reviews are the way that new listeners find the show. When people go to the show page, they look at the reviews, they look at how many reviews there are, and if there are a lot, it is a good advertisement for the show being good. So please help me. Leave a review. There are many of you listening who have not left a review. So please, if you're one of those people, I love you and thank you for listening so much. Okay, this week's guest is Mila Jam. Mila, I love her so much. We go back. We used to perform together in gay clubs in New York City like 15 years ago. And while I have stepped away from music, Mila has kept on going. She has released so many incredible singles, one-of-a-kind music videos. She headlines pride festivals across the country and the world. She has performed on stages with the likes of Chaka Khan, Bob the Drag Queen, even Alana Glazer, a personal hero of mine, Natasha Bedingfield. Mila is a true rising star and trans icon. She's an artist, she's an activist, or an artivist, as she likes to say. She's a singer, she's a dancer, she's a pop star, she's a media personality. She's going to be on Survival of the Thickest with Michelle Buteau on Netflix this summer. Huzzah, huzzah. And I'm lucky enough that she agreed to come on my show. What? I feel like the coolest. So without further ado, here is Mila Jam. All right, Mila Jam, hello. Welcome to Happy Slut.
I'm feeling happy and sort of slutty, I guess.
Ooh, sort of slutty? What's making you feel sort of slutty today?
There's always a little bit of it in the background somewhere. Sometimes you just have to pull it up and conjure it. And, that's the sort of. The sort of is like I haven't fully conjured it, but she lives in there. She's in there.
She's everlasting inside of all of us.
Yeah, she's in the shadows in the back there. And the right situation gets her to come out.
Ooh, we're going to talk about what the right situations are in a little bit, and I'm so excited to hear about what's going on with you lately. But to start, you are such an incredible person and personality in this world. You're an artist and an activist, or an artivist, as you've coined the term. You are absolutely a style icon. You're a rising star. You hang out with the leads of Heated Rivalry. You do incredibly mischievous things like covertly tape straight men talking about homophobia and release it to your Instagram.
Absolutely.
Which I love. Let's shine light on the truth and what's really happening in private conversations. It's what this show is all about. You're so fabulous. You're so sexy. You're so empowered. You're so embodied. And such an inspiration for so many people who don't have that kind of lock on their own power and beauty. And I'm curious to know how you got this way. So if you don't mind, I'd love to hear the Mila Jam origin story, because every superhero has one. What were you like as a kid? What set the stage for you to become this bold and beautiful in your public presentation as an adult?
Okay, great. This is wonderful. There's a lot of detailed stories I could tell you, but I'll start with adversity is probably the strongest thing that has gotten me to where I've gotten today. I've dealt with such adversity growing up as a kid, being different, being awkward, being a little nerdy, being really much into like performing arts, theater, dance. And I was a little bit of a latchkey kid growing up. Like my parents were married for a while before they got divorced. And I was about 5 or 6 before, well, 5 when they did get divorced. And, my mother was a hardworking woman, and just my escapism was, entertainment and being an entertainer. And I'm from the generation of, the Michael Jacksons, the Whitney Houstons, these iconic pop figures, of the 80s and 90s. And I always wanted to be someone who like touched the world with my creative side and my spirit. And I think I identified with those musicians specifically because they were one of one. And I've always felt like I
Mm.
was one of one, always doing my own thing, marching to the beat of my own drum. And that's really hard to do when you're a little Black kid from the South. Like I was born in Chicago, but raised in Georgia, in the like outskirts of Atlanta, small town, and the Bible Belt, raised Southern Baptist, and being really in touch with your like femininity and also your sexuality and your own sort of energy as you're a kid. It was not acceptable in the 90s. It was just something that people were like, you don't know yourself until you're an adult, which I don't agree with. And I think that children really know a lot more about themselves than we allow them to know. And there's also influence and affluence. And, my environment was heavily peppered with, strong, independent women, which back in that time, it was kind of said that like if you were raised around, a lot of strong, independent women, you'll become that. And that was kind of looked down upon because there's no father figure. I don't look at that as a negative thing. I look at that as a very empowering thing. And I get my superhero powers from the women I grew up with, my mother, and I get it from my aunt, who's no longer with us, but she was like one of my greatest inspirations. She was like a world-renowned photographer, and they were just warrior women. And so I believe in womanhood, and I believe in warriorness and warrior women. And that inspired me because I felt like women have always been the most downtrodden of our society. And they are the strongest pillars of our society. Women bring aesthetic, women bring, they do the work, they keep the home, they keep the energy flow. And I just looked at men as like, I'm not that. I just always thought I was just like, I'm not that. There was no, vocabulary for being growing up. I didn't know what trans meant. Being gay was obviously very, very relevant. And a lot of people just, you just get put into that box. So I was like, okay, that's what makes you happy. I'll co-sign that. I always knew that I was a woman specifically when I was probably like 5 or 6. And we know when very early on. No
Yeah.
vocabulary to describe it. The feeling of the woman's spirit in everything that I did. And when I would be in spaces, especially like intimate spaces, like in locker rooms or like in dressing rooms, I would always be pitted with the girls. I would always be looked at as one of the girls. Growing up, guys would make fun of me and be like, you should be in the girls' dressing room. And I'd be like, yeah, like now I can own that. But back then I was like, what are you talking about? And I
Right,
just,
because the worst thing that you can call a boy is a girl. The worst thing you can call a man is a woman.
right.
It's so
Which
backwards.
honestly is a whole nother conversation and another topic because we have to graduate from that frame
Yeah.
of thinking. But in the time, that's exactly what it was. And I was never afraid of myself. And I think that's something that's very important for people to know is there are folks in the LGBTQ plus community who are afraid of who they are and what they might be and realizing that. And there are those who are not. And I think there's a difference there based on your surroundings. I was never afraid of myself. I was never scared of what I might actually be. I was scared of how people would treat me and what they would think of me should I follow through. And that is to me where the choice comes in. And you make the choice to allow yourself to be that and live that. And what comes with it, you get to a point where you just don't care. And I think that's the point where you transition. It's like, it's a life or death situation, at least for me and a lot of my colleagues growing up. And I just felt like, you know what, I have this life. I don't know what the other life is. Maybe we've had other lives before this one, but in this life, I think specifically, I'm making the choice to live out loud and to be myself. So I came out of the closet first time, like around 17. I was in theater. I was in arts. I was singing. I was starring in local community theater, doing shows. I was like, doing lots of big things. I was a big fish in a small pond. I was making my way to New York City because I knew I wanted to become a superstar. And at the time, it was like, I'm going to be a Broadway star, all that stuff. Where do you go? You go to New York. And I remember leaving after coming out to my family where they were kind of like, they just didn't understand. They were just like, why do you have to be that? Why do you have to be gay?
So you were coming out as gay at 17.
Yeah,
not
because
as
that was the
trans.
only way to describe it. There was no description for being like, this is the time in the 90s with Maury Povich and like, Jerry Springer and all of these different talk shows where the alphabet community was only highlighted for like the sideshow aspect. And I was definitely not a sideshow. And I always think about how people from the 90s, growing up in the queer community were having to juggle being really like you're at your best with your education, at your best with your manners, at your best with all of the things that society threw at you because that was the way to gain validation. And so a lot of queer folks, I think from the 90s are really prolific in like school, degrees, art, talent, like have refined, you refined yourself because you don't want people to look down upon you. And I did that as well. And I focused a lot of my energy on being a student and I can accomplish all the things. And I'm not like that, And I moved to New York to pursue my acting career, Broadway theater, touring. At the age of 18, when I went to study school, I went to an acting school, theater school. A lot of people may know it. It's a musical theater school called Musical Dramatic Academy, AMDA. And I left that. I finished in like, you can do the programming, like go straight through. It's a 2-year school. I finished in a year and a half. I went straight through. And as soon as I finished it, I was on tour. I was touring with shows. I was touring with Rent. I was going all over the place, doing all the things. And I saw the world a lot more. And it was a combination of being out of the South, moving to New York, then traveling the world, going to Canada, Japan. I had traveled to South Africa and to Amsterdam prior to even moving to New York. So like my first international trip, which I think is so important for people to travel internationally, was when I was 16. And so I got to see the world in a lot of many different lenses. And I just felt like, okay, there's so much more going on than like what this community has taught me in the South. I have options, and I got to grow and I got to like figure out what that is for me. And then when I'm touring with the shows, I see all of these beautiful trans women, different titles at the time, but these trans women who were stunning, beautiful, amazing, gorgeous, and always given like the bottom of the barrel in the dark, in the basement, behind the bar, like, and not giving, I guess, the accolades that they deserve.
For all of my straight and bi men listening and my gay and bi women listening, everybody who has sex with women and wants to do better, I've got a product for you. Have you heard of Kenneth Play? He is an Adonis of a man, and he has put together a video course teaching others how to please women the way only he knows how. I have personally had the pleasure of spending an intimate evening with Kenneth. I don't think I've ever had a first-time sexual encounter with somebody that was just 100% pleasurable. There was never a moment of pain. There was never a moment of meh. He knew my body better than I knew my body. He found pleasure spots in me that I did not know I had. And he made me come many times. I have gifted his web course, Beyond Satisfied Pro, to lovers of mine, and in every case, they have become better lovers as a result. And now I would like to gift this to you with a 15% discount. Go to kennethplay.com/closeted. That link gets you 15% off Kenneth's Beyond Satisfied Pro course. This is just for my listeners. Trust me, No one regrets being great in bed, and this course will get you there. KennethPlay.com/closeted.
And I'm just like, what is that? Like, I think that there needs to be an exaltation of the women in the queer community, the trans women specifically, who've led the way and paved the way. So I just remember feeling like there's got to be a better life being a woman like that. And I recognized myself in that in my college years in New York through a woman that I've talked about in many interviews, named Candace Kane. She's an amazing, stunning, groundbreaking trans woman from New York City. She did Dirty Sexy Money, the TV show. She was the first trans woman to ever be in a recurring role on a major TV series. So she paved the way for a lot, and I knew her personally. And I would go see her do her cabaret show once a week at a now gone staple in New York City nightlife that I've performed at called Barracuda, which just closed down.
Yeah.
And so I saw myself in her because she was the gateway for me to realize that you are more than just your body and you are more than just what people say. She was human. She was human to me. And I was like the first time I met a woman of trans experience that just was humanized. And I loved her. I love her still. I love her to this day. She's one of, I guess, a mother, if you could say there is that. I don't think she would. She's not my mother, but like, you know what I mean?
A mentor figure.
Is a big sister, you know? And
Yeah.
through her, I just discovered like the possibility of like thriving as a woman who started in a different place. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. And that just kind of carried me through my club years through New York, doing cabaret shows. And this was, it's interesting because trying to figure out how to juggle life when there is no social media apps blueprint of like what to do. This is at a time where it's like, we have the internet, but there's like chat rooms and there's, websites, but you're like going onto websites to research transitional stuff. And it's just like different. It's not the same as having Instagram and people putting their process on social media. You kind of had to like ask friends and talk to people. And I started to come into my own when I stopped touring for a while. I fully delved into what womanhood looked like for me. I, got out of a really serious relationship with a guy that was really supportive of my journey, but it just turned toxic in its own way because he was holding space for me only in certain aspects, and there's family getting involved, and his family didn't know, and then it just became too much.
Didn't know what? His family
that I
didn't
was
know what?
a trans woman.
Ah,
And
okay. Was he a straight guy then?
Yes, this straight guy that I had met online, dating online way before dating apps. And, a fling turned into a relationship. And that was sort of the catalyst to step into fully, because there's a period of time before, when most people are transitioning, you're living as is what we would
Right.
call it, and I
Right.
was living as for years. And then there's things that you get into that, further your transition along that make it a little more concrete for you and every day, because there's a period where you're back and forth. You're like, some days you're femme and some days you're not. And some days you're hyper femme and some days you're just like wearing a hoodie and trying to cover yourself up and don't want anyone to see you.
That is actually a pretty accurate description of womanhood.
And that's just being a woman, period.
Yeah. 100%. I call it traveling incognito. Like, I can be pretty. I don't want to always be pretty.
Right.
I don't always want the
But
attention
also,
that
though,
pretty gets
that
you.
is a woman thing, and I will agree with you, but that's from two different angles, because for most trans women, it is hiding in the sense of like not being found out or figured out. And I think with cis women and women who are not trans, it's the hiding is from maybe some of the patriarchy and people wanting to like approach you.
Right.
And then as a trans woman, you're like, I want people to approach me, but not like this. Like,
right.
I don't want you to, I'm not fully me right now. So you like covered up. And the guy I was with at the time he was very supportive until things took a turn. He was like, you're beautiful as you are. And that's why I believe that it just comes from you. It has to come from you because people can tell you they like you a certain way or not, but it has to be your choice. And it was my choice. And I was happy to step into my womanhood fully. And, when we broke up, it was literally right at the time where I had fully like planned all of these things that I needed for myself. And he was going to be a part of that. But then I started to feel like he wanted to have some ownership of me, of my choices. And I was like, that's not a good feeling. I don't want that. And when we broke up, I was devastated because I thought he would be there. But then again, it was a little bit of a a liberation because I was like, well, this is now all on my terms. And, I know there are a lot of trans women out there who had medical transitional stuff happen that may not have been like only on their terms. It might have been
Right.
situational or whatever. And then to a degree, it is survival. It's to survive and it's to be safe and it's to be okay and it's to fit in. After him, honey, I get into the dating world and I had been dating prior to that, but like I always felt like a woman when I was dating men, especially men that identified as gay. And it just didn't mesh the way that you would want it to. They were kind of like, oh, I'm into this submissive nature that you're giving, but like, I like guys. And I had a boyfriend prior to that guy that I dated, who I would say was like an official, like gay boyfriend who I wondered if we would ever withstood the test of love, because I think there are those couples who stay with a partner whether they transition or not.
Right.
That was not our story. Girl, he was cheating with guys left and right. He was like all about the men folk. And I found that out and I was like, okay, this is too much for me. And then like I had a lot of beautiful dating experiences throughout the journey of my womanhood. Honestly, a lot of them way more affirming than now. And this is still at the very beginning stages of like social media and dating apps. It just was a different time. It was a time where I think men had a little bit more autonomy as I go into this direction. Men had a little more autonomy on their desire to like explore and experiment and be like open to the possibility of different types of women, i.e. trans women. The narrative and people knowing it wasn't giving them anxiety the way that it does now, I think, because there's just so much more attention on the community. It's like you got to stake your claim. Like, where do you fit? Where do you fit? Do you date trans women? Do you not? It provides a layer of like, people have to like box you into something. And in this period before all of the trans tipping point.
Are you talking, I just so I'm clear, are you talking about the way our current right-wing political force is scapegoating trans people?
Not even
Are you
talking about
saying,
that. That is a part of it.
oh,
I'm talking about men literally making decisions to want to pursue trans women, be open to dating trans women. It was a different experience because when someone is standing over you or hanging over you with like this narrative, it makes you feel a lot more insecure. And when no one's thinking about it, right? This is where the privileges of malehood come in. No one's thinking about it, talking about it, or it's not on their radar. Men are really good at doing things that they want to do without anybody else knowing.
okay, I see. So before transgender rights and really talking about trans people was such a cultural
Right.
conversation,
Before the cultural shift and conversation,
it felt like the straight men had more freedom.
I do to a degree. I do believe that a lot of straight men were more, because the discovery of that for them was like, oh, this is something that's an option that I wasn't persuaded to feel a certain way about. Obviously, there is like a
Right.
clear, like, we don't talk about that. You don't do that. You don't date women who were born as men. There's obviously a narrative. There's always been a narrative. But the shift and the change is that that narrative didn't hit them the way it hits now, because now you have to have a stance on it. And when people
Oof.
bring it up, it's like, there are going to be guys who are deniers and be like, no, 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 but they're clearly someone who might be interested in trans. They're not going to tell you. It doesn't benefit them. And in the world of women benefiting men in patriarchy, women are status symbols, and trans women are not socially acceptable status symbols for men yet.
I feel like any man on your arm is being elevated by your mere presence in his
And two things
life.
can be right at the same time. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree. But then that means that the man that I'm entertaining or dating has to have done work. They have to
Yeah.
have healed some things in themselves. And do you want to know something really quickly? I thought about this too. Usually those men at that time who were able to date the girls, trans women, the dolls, whatever you want to say, a lot of them were men who didn't have family, who might have like disowned family, been ostracized from their family, and they were more free thinkers because they didn't have anyone to answer to.
Oh,
So
wow.
if they were just kind of like, they were dudes who like, yeah, I don't speak to my family, I'm off the grid, or I don't, they might have even gotten into some trouble. And I'm not trying to glamorize men who like are, in trouble with the law, but like a lot of those men would be like, I've hit rock bottom. I have nothing else to lose. I do what makes me happy. And if that happens to be a girl that's trans, I'm happy. Like, I don't care. I dated a guy who was a hot con mess. And, and he was passionate, he was a little obsessive and a little cray-cray, but there was a level of passion that was there because he didn't care what anybody thought. He was just like,
Yeah.
And so that dynamic has changed a little bit with men now because they have to answer to it. They have to, prove to people like how they feel about it. And we don't have the healthiest understanding of it. Like, trans women are actively out here trying to teach people. Have y'all learned anything? Have y'all paid attention during the pandemic? What we've been saying during the trans liberation marches, all of this stuff, trans women are women. And like, I think people have gotten it more collectively now, but there's still a lot of people who don't get it. And the men are kind of like, they just objectify what they want to objectify. And they want to have their cake and eat it too. They will sleep with trans women, have trans women, and not stand up for us, not fight for us, not do the hard work, which is to speak out for us. And it's a lot.
Yeah. And when we say trans women are women, like, there's so much of what you're describing that parallels what cis women go through with men, because they also will sleep with us and discard us and not stand up for us.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of like self-identifying feminist men I've had to cut the fuck out of my life just in the last year, because as soon as I started to really get to know them, I realized I was just an object to them.
Yeah.
That's why it makes me mad when you get women who claim that trans women don't understand what it's like to be a woman.
No, we understand.
I think trans women understand better than you do.
Yeah, we understand, we can come from a different perspective and still understand that we're dealing with the same issues. And I love sharing with people that trans is an adjective and it's a description word, and it's a word that describes a type of woman. You have fat women, strong women, tall women, short women, Asian women, Black women, trans women, lesbian women. And I think that that's important. It's something that describes, but women at the end of the day, like, this is the things that we are experiencing at large that parallel. And it is, I think, maybe the first time in history where women have had the most awareness of our position and place in the world, how much power we contain and how much we have to decenter and how much we have to choose ourselves, which is like something that I've been learning and practicing in ways, healthy decentering of the male gaze. And like, there are elements that are still there, of course. But, at the end of the day, like, there's nothing to me like women supporting women. I think women supporting women, helping women is the greatest thing ever because of the adversity we've dealt with and the opportunity to choose what we do from like our experience, from our spirit, from our hearts. And I think men envy that. I think a lot of men envy that. And I think a lot of men don't really love themselves or like themselves. And they use women as a way to sort of tolerate themselves. That's another conversation. But
as a path to validation, as a path to self-worth, which is not how you foster a real human intimate relationship. That's using a person the way you would use a job title.
I want to interject something very quickly. I was just listening to a dear sister of mine speaking about this conversation around like, relationships specifically. There was the conversation of the Meg Thee Stallion and her boyfriend Klay Thompson and them breaking up. And my sister, Dominique Morgan, who a lot of people know, she said something that just hit me like a ton of bricks. She said that what a lot of people are missing about men is there are too many men who literally get up in the morning and go chase power and money and the dollar sign. And their goal is to be successful financially, but not to wake up and be a good person or to be a good man. They're missing that whole point. The goal is to get the riches, to have the means to do the things. Should they get those things, they're just not good people. They're not really connected to wanting to just be a good person, partner, contributor to the world, And I was like, wow, I was like, that is so true.
That is so true. They've been taught that what it means to be a good man means making a lot of money,
to
means
be a
being
good man
dominant.
Means being financially successful, not being a good man.
Right. It's so backwards. And then they wonder why they're lonely, or they wonder why their relationships feel hollow. And then they get mad at women as if it's their fault. Oh,
It's
I
deep.
love that. Thank you for sharing that. It is deep.
It's very deep. Yeah. And I think that some of them are realizing this. I've actually seen a few more men, like on my feed, trying to do their part to speak out about this and healing this trauma and being like, men, we've got to get it together because the ladies are not having it. And it is,
That's encouraging.
it is encouraging, but it's like they can't, it's not sustainable anymore. I don't think it's the patriarchal like subscriptions, the misogynistic subscriptions that these men have. They're losing their sustainability. I think we join ourselves a favor by like stepping away, withholding,
Having boundaries,
our
having
boundaries,
standards.
putting those boundaries in place. I mean, let's be real. There's always going to be that girl who gets, that they reel in. There's always going to be that girl or those girls. But it's a real thing. And I like, we have those powers and that access key that we've got to like, hold.
Yeah. The men of the manosphere are so angry about that. That's why they call women the gatekeepers of sex, and they're resentful about it. And they hate that they're being expected to rise to a higher standard in order to earn our attention and presence. And it's like they wish for the days when we were forced to be with them. And it's so crazy. It's like, y'all, it's better on this side of the fence. Like, it's better when we acknowledge each other as human beings and treat each other with respect and kindness. Like, a woman is so much more fun to be in a relationship with when she is a whole person and gets to be herself and isn't just existing to fucking serve you and your bullshit sad needs. Like, sorry, I can go off on so many.
No. I agree with you, but I wonder, like, the humanization of women is really what it's about, because if we're not looked at as humans, especially trans women as well, if we're not looked at as human, we're looked at as objects, right? And the way that they look at objects and they're taught to treat objects is to get something from that object that is serving a purpose, right? It is the same thing as saying, like, we should all be able to exist. I should be able to exist without doing any work. I should be able to exist without having to question my worth, what I can do for society or for people. That should just be a thing that women have. And we're going up against that all the time. And I also feel like men feel like they're victims. They think they are the victims. And it is a perspective shift. If they think that they're the victim, they're always going to feel like women have it easier. And there's some girl who was asking men questions like, do you think men or women have it harder in dating? One guy said he thinks it's both, which I do think to a degree it is both of us. We have our own issues. But for those who said like, oh, men have it harder, for sure. And his perspective was that we have more options, that women have more options because we're women and we can just get whatever we want and get any guy we want. I had a guy say to me, you can have sex whenever you want and all that stuff. And I said, that's fascinating. In theory, that may have a lot of truth to it. But
I've heard that before too, from a lot of men. Even really well-meaning sweet men say that.
Yeah. But in perspective, the practice of me going out to choose what I desire, like, it comes with so many restrictions. My safety, my well-being, my sanity. We are the one, what do they say? We are like the one species that dates its own predator. We literally date our own predator. The number one killer of women is men. The man versus the bear theory, which is like men will willingly go after women. Bears don't give a fuck until they feel like they've been.
Yeah, the one of the most memorable lines about that I've seen is, we choose the bear because the bear might kill us, but at least it won't rape us first. Like,
Also, the bear's doing that out of self-defense. Men are not killing women out of self-defense.
No.
It's that conversation where we say, not all men or not all situations, but 99.9% of the time, that is the situation and that is the case.
Yeah, the issue is it's not all men, but we don't know which men. That's the best way I've seen it put. We don't know which men are safe.
Well, we can all kind of agree that it's most
men. Yeah.
And that's more than none and more than some.
I saw someone on Substack recently asking the question, do like the really truly good men who are doing the work and trying really hard realize that they feel like a very small minority? And I don't know if they do. I feel like men have each other's backs a lot of the time, and they think more well of each other than is warranted, or than we do based on our experiences with them as women. All right. We've talked a lot about society. We talked about your origin story. You said something really great. I just want to circle back to really quickly about children know themselves better than we give them credit for. Like, I love that. I knew I was bisexual by the time I was like 6 or 7 as
Mm-hmm.
well, but I didn't have a word for it until I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I like, and yeah, there are people who make these discoveries later in life, but like so many people know as kids. And if we just decide not to believe kids about their own experiences, how is that different than not believing women about their own experiences or any marginalized group about
Yeah.
their own experiences? It's just ridiculous not to listen to children. So I just wanted to highlight that. Like,
I
thank you for
love
saying
that.
that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But
100.
now that we've talked about all this like overarching societal stuff, can we get into some fun stuff and talk about like how your sex and love life is going these days and what's bringing you joy? Are you happily slutty these days, Mila?
I'm
That laugh.
I know, right? Like I am I'm reflectively slutty, and I'm processing my choices to bring joy in slutty ways into my life. And that is a myriad of things. And that comes from a place of, okay, so there's an arc, like a story character arc here. Like my journey from like celibacy to dating someone very seriously to that not working out to regrouping to allowing myself to have fun again. And that has been basically my last year. And
Wow.
that was a lot of things shift in that experience.
Do you mind getting into more detail, like what prompted the celibacy? Like,
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. The celibacy was, as someone who is sex positive, I practice safe sex. I practice, transparency. I don't put myself in situations and predicaments that I don't feel like I want to be in or don't feel safe in. I don't use, recreational drugs. So like I have dated a lot and I've met a lot of men. And it is also a part of my geography. Like where I live in New York City, it's easy to date a lot of men and for it to go nowhere.
yes, it is.
You
I
can
know
date.
that from experience.
It could be your job. Like I could
Yes.
get paid to just date people. If I could get paid for it, I could clock in and be like, well, had this date and this date and that date. And I got frustrated and I was like, I felt like my energy was being siphoned. It's the word
Yeah.
of the moment. A lot of our energy is being siphoned from a lot of different things. That's another topic, but from men specifically. And I had looked at all of the things that I've done for men, given to them, my sanity, my therapy, my body, my listening skills, all that stuff. And I was like, you know what? I think I need to be done with all of them. I just need to be done. I need to I need to not see any of them, talk to them. No sex, no this, no that, right?
Detox.
I detoxed and it went really well. I actually am proud of myself. I think that everybody should do a celibacy detox at some
How
point.
long did you go for?
It was about 10 months, almost a year.
Wow.
And like I know I have friends and there are a lot of people who have been doing like the celibacy for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. It goes on and on, right? There are some people who that is like they found their safe space.
Yeah.
And I'm proud that I found a space where I felt like I was in control of like nothing giving me anxiety or stress. And I broke it because I felt fulfilled and I felt like I could enjoy the quiet. And so I enjoyed the quiet and I was like, I'm not dealing with anybody giving me anything, not showing up when he said he's going to come over, disappointing me when he comes over and not pleasing me and not doing what I needed him to do. I did have a hookup situation where it ended up being like the guy got what he needed and I didn't get what I needed and I kicked him out. And I was like, you need to
Yes.
go, sir. Yeah. Like,
Yes.
and this is the thing is like, I was not that girl 10, 15, years ago. I was the girl who was like, okay.
Yeah.
Until
Same.
you have that energy where, and as a woman, you have to tell them, no, get them out. And you can't spend the night. One guy tried to spend the night unannounced and be like, oh, I can, what time do you get up in the morning? And I was like, you're leaving in 15 minutes. You're not getting up with me. Like he had a backpack and everything. And I was like, I see that you brought a duffel bag, but I don't do hobosexuals. Like you cannot stay. So he left and I was like, okay, I have to implement that more often. So I was doing that
Yes.
more and more. And that one guy had annoyed me. I kicked him out and I was like, I'm just taking my time for myself. Then I entertained talking to some men, not having sexual encounters. And, that led to me like opening myself up emotionally, and it would just like end up going nowhere. There was a guy that I liked, and, he was doing all the right things, nice date, taking me to meet his friends, leading me in the direction, and then like ultimately like not doing anything, like just dropping the ball. I think he's a little bit of a narcissist and all that stuff. And
Man,
so,
why do they do that? It's so annoying. It's like, why are you going to put on a show? I've had a couple of friends recently who had boys who put on such a boyfriend show for like a solid month and then disappeared.
you know what? That's a show, the boyfriend show. And that
Mhm.
boyfriend show can last anywhere from a week to 10 years.
Pinecones, you might have heard my interview with Dr. Elliot Justin, founder of FirmTech, and if you did, you know all about how exciting the tech ring is. It's a health wearable that improves men's sexual performance and gives them priceless health data that can act as an early indicator of heart issues. Yeah. During sex, it keeps you hard and makes your orgasms crazy. And during sleep, it tracks your nocturnal erections, which can literally tell you if you have issues with your heart or hormone levels before they get really bad. This product saves lives and marriages. And I'm really excited to give you a 15% discount on any of FirmTech's products with code CLOSETED at checkout. In addition to the tech ring, they also have the performance ring, a non-tech cock ring that features a really cool hook and eye design to avoid having to shimmy the ring down the length of your cock, which, if you've tried that, it's not the sexiest. They also have the Ring Mate, a vibrating attachment that works with the tech ring and performance ring and can also be used on one's fingertips. Ooh la la. Get yours today by going to myfirmtech.com and using code CLOSETED at checkout. myfirmtech.com, code CLOSETED at checkout. You're welcome. Yeah.
A lot of these men, they are doing the boyfriend show, and they need the boyfriend show to make themselves feel good and feel important without really having any conviction on how we feel.
It's
And
about them. It's not
it's
about
about them.
relationship.
And that's narcissism, and
Yeah.
it's selfish. And
Yeah.
they are not really tapped in the way we think they are. And we get tricked into it. And that mask can last years. So after that, whatever. So I was celibate for about 10 months. And then, I called an old faithful. I was like, you know what? It's time. It was spring. I did it like through the fall and the winter and the beginning of that year. And then spring came around and I was like, you know what? I need my mojo and I need to see if I still got it. And I have
'Tis
it.
the season for friskiness, and I have it. She said, a girl's got needs.
So this reflective slut just figured it out. And I was like, okay, I got my life with an old, reliable, beautiful, tall chocolate man. And I was kind of like, yeah, still there. And I was kind of like, okay, that was that. Like, there's no great revelation, but I'll tell you this. If you have a celibacy streak, it will change you. It will change you completely. You won't look at things the same. And I don't look at things the same anymore after that time, because now everything to me it was a direct decision that I can take it or leave it. It wasn't like predicated on like, I need this, I want this will get me X, Y, or Z. No, it takes all of that away. So like now I have ownership of like how I feel about having it or not having it. It made me so much more concrete in my way of dealing with men when I want it. And telling them like, listen, I'm not trying to F you. I don't need you. If I do, I can be very upfront about it. And if I don't, I'm not in this fantasy of like, well, if I give it to him, he'll do this, he'll do that. Da, 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 da. There's that layer, where like, oh, this will translate into like, I'm showing him with my body that like, that's a struggle with transness. It's like, we can find that validation through what we are able to do with our bodies, because that's what a lot of men desire. They want to experiment and explore and discover that part of us, not our humanity. So it just makes you get clear. And I was clear, then I was unbothered. And when I'm the most unbothered, some guy got in and he and I had a really beautiful connection, and it didn't start out with just sex. I was like, I just want to get to know someone. I just want to talk. I just want companionship. And that turned into like a long distance relationship. I was like, this is going to be my man. I was like, this is going to be my man. We've got to figure out the distance stuff. But I had met him on a trip. I was touring and I was doing a show.
How crazy is the distance? Are we talking a drive or a flight?
A flight. He was in the Midwest, but like no expectations. I had none. literally from the day that I met, I invited him to hang out. We hung out. We had a great time, and I put him out before anything could get saucy and spicy. And I was just like, oh, if you ever find yourself, visiting the city, let me know. Look me up. Have a good night. Take care. I actively remember that I was so thankful to the universe that I had beautiful, respectful treatment. That was something that I want more of. And I did not need to attach to it. I let it go. I was like, I enjoyed that. That was wonderful. But then, the moment you do that, it's like, hey, how are you? How was your night? How are you? And then he would start messaging me and he would start asking and not doing too much, checking in. I was traveling. I left doing that job. I went to Vegas. I did some stuff with some friends. I was going to other places. He was not on my radar. Within a week, he was like, so I've made plans to come and visit. And I'm going to fly to visit you, see you. I would love to stay in Midtown. And then he'd also made plans to do something for himself. He was a runner, is a runner. And he was like, oh, I saw there's a run, like a little 10K that I want to do happening around this time. I was like, okay, cool. That sounds great. He's like, no, I just booked the ticket and I'm sending you the itinerary. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. You really are coming. He followed through. He did the thing. It was great. We had the weekend. He did not stay with me. I don't allow it. I spent the time with him in his place. We had a whirlwind fun touristy weekend, bike riding, Central Park, going all around to Brooklyn, museums, shows, all the stuff. When he left after it was like a 4-day weekend, he left. And I was like, I don't know if I'll ever see him again, but I'm happy that we got to spend that time together. Take it a day at a time. He kept conversing with me. The energy kept going. Before he got here, we spoken every night for a month because we really built up that energy. We didn't do all the things when we had that one date. So there was a lot to fill in the gaps. So we spoke all the time. He came, did the trip, he left, and then we continued the conversation. And we started doing this, the thing where you're like in the pseudo relationship where you're like, I know I'm talking to you once a day. We may have like a day off. Consistency was perfect. We were there consistent. The longest we would go without speaking would be maybe 2 days. And averaged every day, every other day, late night conversations on the phone, 3, 4, 5 hours, here and there, FaceTime calls, all of the stuff, relationship stuff. 3.5 months in, I was like, I'm thinking of taking a trip to come and see you, return the favor. I was like, I'm going to go and see a friend's show, actively giving myself something else to do.
Just like he did.
But I made it very clear, I'm coming to see you. It is my reason for wanting to make this happen. So he got the hotel, I got my flight. We had a lovely weekend, dinner and the things and all night sex and cuddling and all that stuff, right? And then when I left kind of feeling like, okay, now I did that and I did my part. Where do we go from here? Is this like a scheduled okay, well, I'll plan to come and see you in a couple of weeks or a couple of whatever months. And you got to tap the tennis ball.
Yeah.
So there were no plans being made. And then I was kind of like, okay, let me just let it breathe. A week goes by, 2 weeks go by. I'm thinking we're right here at the, I want you to be my girlfriend part. Is he going to pursue that? Is he going to ask me? Yeah. That's what it sounded like. And I really thought that was coming until he had made plans to do another running trip somewhere else. He was like, oh, I'm going upstate, to visit some friends and I'm running with them. And oh, cool. Have fun. Then it was December during the winter. And he's like, I'm going to go down south to go running. And, I want to get out of the cold, whatever. Cool. Sounds like fun. And I had a thought. He didn't invite me as a getaway. Why don't you meet me and let's go and do this together? And he didn't offer to want to come where I was. We're long distance and it doesn't really feel like I'm as involved as I could be. And so I just started to get a little spider senses. And I was like, let me just see what he does unprompted. Let me actually maybe just pull back a little bit and feel him, say hey, hon, you've been a little distant or I haven't talked to you as much. And, he kind of didn't really do that much. I mean, he kept the conversation, but I felt the energy shift. And then it shifted the most right before the holidays, before Christmas, when he was on that trip. He was getting back from that trip. And I went cold turkey. I felt it in my spirit that he's not showing up for this the way that I think it needs to happen. And my friends were like, why don't you have a talk? You should have a conversation. And I was under the belief, and, give me advice if you want, but I think when a man wants to be with a woman, she does not have to look for clues. If he wants to be
No.
with you, he is going to make it happen.
Yeah,
And
and
I
and
started
there's
looking,
no room for
there's no
uncertainty.
room for if you're confused, it's not happening. That's what they say. I
Yeah.
was starting to get confused.
Yeah.
And I started to sense I think there might be something or someone else that he's focusing on. I'm going to let him focus on that. So I pulled back.
I love how empowered all of this is. If 10 months of celibacy gave you this amount of let me watch and wait and see.
If there's one thing anybody takes away from this interview with you, I am a woman of result. I want results. I want
Yes.
results. If I'm auditioning for your show, I want results. You can say no, you can say yes. I just want results. I don't want to be in limbo. I don't want to be in this limerence. I don't want to be in I don't know. No, 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 no. I'm a Pisces and I have that enough. Okay.
Yeah.
I live in the water of emotion. So
Yeah.
I like to have that clarity, and I can be like, check, got it, cool, that's what it is. And I'm a big girl. I can deal with it. So anyways, we had one last conversation. He was going on another run. I didn't think I would hear from him. This is how it got. We had a long call on a Sunday. Then we had a check-in call on a Wednesday. And then that last check-in call that would happen that Wednesday it was okay, but it was short. And I felt like he was deliberately being short with me. And I was kind of like, are we good? Are we cool? And he was like, yeah, cool, we're cool. And I was just like, oh.
Doesn't feel cool.
Doesn't feel like it, but okay, I'll listen to you. And that's when I pulled back. And I was like, you know what? I am not going to text him or call him until he wants to initiate. He did. He texted me that Friday. He initiated. How's your night going? And I was like, very short answers. Working on this. Cool. Well, I've got this run tomorrow morning. I got to get some sleep. I'm going to get up for that, and I'm going to do that. I'm so excited. And
I'm sick of this man running already.
I'm excited, and then I'll text you tomorrow after.
Yeah. Okay.
My last words to him, and I haven't heard from him since, and this was 5.5 months ago. My last word was enjoy.
And that was it?
That was it. The next day, the day that he was doing the run and that he was supposed to text me afterward, I was with my core group of ladies, my girlfriends. We had a Christmas party. We, talked about all of our stuff going on. They're asking me about him. And I was like, oh, he's going to text me. I made a pact with myself that moment. I will not reach out to this man ever again unprompted. I'm going to let it simmer, and I'm going to let it go, no matter how much it hurts me. And I thought he would text me. He didn't. The next morning I woke up, surely I would get a text. He didn't. That night, didn't. The next day, and then now a month, 2 months, and I made peace with it. It was really hard for me. It was very difficult to let it go. Some sleepless nights of oh. And you want to know what I feel that really happened? I think that he knew what he was doing. He knew he was in the wrong. And he wasn't accountable for that because he did something that he was probably not proud of. And I think when you're not proud of something, you stick. It's like Trump supporters. They keep quiet.
You avoid, you hide.
You avoid, you hide, you Homer Simpson into the bushes. You're like, and if you can Homer Simpson, I can too. So I was like, and now, some people might say I could have been accountable and reached out and said, hey, I haven't heard from you. But I guarantee you, if somebody is in the wrong and they don't say anything to you, they know what they're doing, and it will hurt them so much more when they know that you know without saying a word.
Mm-hmm.
And when they have to just come to terms with that. I'm sure he's moved on. I'm sure he's had a girlfriend. I'm sure he's dealt with somebody else, but he'll never have another me. And he's going to come back, and they always boomerang.
They do.
And I had a friend ask about him the other day. It has been since December since I've spoken to that man. There will come a time where he'll be like, hey, I was thinking about you and how you've been. I'm ready for it. I'm absolutely ready for it. I've done the healing work. I've moved on. I can hold space for all of that, for what happened between us. But guys, the advice I would give you is, if you are in a position where you are done with something, you don't know how you feel about it, give that woman grace and just be like, I'm not sure I can do what I can be what you want. And I know a lot of men say that. and women hold on to that as potential. But to give nothing to work with also says a lot. And ghosting is something that a lot of people do these days. It is as simple as saying, I'm not where we were. I've chosen differently. I've moved on. I'm in a different place. Someone who messaged me incessantly recently who's just trying to get in my pants. I had to tell him, I'm seeing someone and I don't think this is going to be something that I want to continue doing. Whether that or not that's true, I'm giving you something to work with, and you should give them
Right.
something to work with because they
Right.
can make a decision.
Because you took this empowered stance of I'm not going to message him, but then you had to sit there and wait and watch as time played out him not messaging you. Whereas if he had just given you something like a fucking Christmas present, it would have hurt, but you would have been able to immediately start moving on instead of spending months being like, is he gonna really? Really? He's not okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that they don't, men are so scared of us getting mad at them.
Yeah, they are.
But it's like, we're going to be mad at you no matter what if you're cutting something off that felt like it was going well.
But wait, I have a point. I think they start out with connections to women thinking we're mad at them, which we are. But I think, I had a guy ask me this the other night. He's like, you look upset. You look upset. It is so interesting because they don't know the experience of what women go through, that if you were dragged through the mud, thrown over the back of a truck, run through the town, all the things, if all of this stuff is happening to you and then you had to speak to another man that all of that stuff happened to you before with, you would be exhausted, you'd be fatigued, you'd be frustrated and upset, right? And so for you to evoke joy from me, you have to take certain steps to get that from us. If you're a woman who's been through some things, learned some things, this is also why men date down, and that's why they date younger women, because it's easier for them to just get over on them, and those women can just appease those men, and they can just be like, oh, I love whatever you're going to give me. And so if you're a woman who doesn't deal with that, they have to show up, and they have to be aware, and they have to address the thing. Then there becomes a lot of elephants in the room. And so I think that men are scared of women, but if you're creating safe spaces for us to not be scared of you, then that should be the goal.
Yeah. If we're really fostering intimacy and honest communication, I don't see how you don't have a conversation where you're like, I'm actually not feeling this anymore, and I think you're amazing, and I don't want to hurt you, but I also don't want to string you along because you deserve better than that.
Absolutely. You deserve better than that. And we deserve better than that.
Yes.
And communication is a big part of relationship stuff for me. Whatever that communication is, a lot of men will say, I just like to be honest. I like to be transparent. But we also know why men don't just come out and say, I want to hook up with you, and that's it. They don't do that because they're not going to get the boyfriend show.
It's interesting because in my sex life these days, we're in very different places. I just came out of diminishing my sexuality for years to appease my still current husband, but soon to be ex. And I'm in this place where I'm like, I want to hook up as much as I feel like it. And I love finding men who also want to hook up, but simultaneously see women as people. So my vetting process is now
what's that vetting process like?
Well, it's asking them really uncomfortable questions that are very revealing right off the bat. If you ask a man, so do you like women?
Yeah.
Sincerely?
Yeah.
Are you a feminist?
Right.
Asking questions like that is really revealing because even if they don't answer honestly,
you can tell.
You can suss out. You can tell what's really going on. You can tell by the way a man talks to you just in messages if he sees women as people for real.
And you can tell their politics too if you have a conversation with them. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They'll tell on themselves.
I just found a man who is absolutely not. I mean, he could be boyfriend material in a non-monogamous relationship, but I'm not necessarily looking for that. He's not necessarily looking for that, but he's loving, in the way he treats people, he's respectful. This guy just really does want to hook up, but he doesn't want to hook up in a shitty, unintimate way. He wants to have intimacy and connection. He just doesn't want to have monogamy or somebody who's going to demand a lot of him because he has a demanding job and he's not looking for a relationship. And this is ideal for me. It's oh, you treat me like a person. You care about my needs. You're communicative. You're honest. You're empathetic. We have fun together. A lot of fun together.
Yeah.
He'll pick up the check. He'll book the hotel room.
I haven't quite I haven't quite found. I had one of those, but I haven't quite found a replacement for that because I do feel like for me, it's like you know what, there are types of guys that I'm like, you know what, I want to have fun with you. You can, come over, do your job, and leave. We can have like quick small talk. The requirements aren't really that great, but I have
Right.
to be into you, and I want that things from you, and I want you to ravage me and throw me across the room and all that stuff. And like one of those that I had, he moved and he, went across the country and like it's kind of like, oh, okay, And so auditioning process is what I'm in. I'm in the auditioning process right now. I've been going on dates. And what I'm looking for at the moment too is a little suspect because my boundaries are so much higher than they were. And I would love to be in a really empowering and loving connection and partnership with someone. That is a goal of mine. I'm not looking for marriage. I don't want children, but I do want partnership and I want someone who loves to travel. And there are a lot of things that I know that I want, right? But I'm also like, at what cost? And trying to find that, it's like, I find that I date better when I'm outside of the country. I find that when I'm traveling, I meet people who are a lot more what I would want to spend my time with. It's
Yeah.
difficult finding that in my city. I did have a date with a gentleman, and that was cool. He was a nice guy. Do I feel like he's my person? No, I don't. Do I feel like he's someone that I could hang out with and get to know maybe and have another date with? Sure. And like the sexual scale, like, I don't know, like 1 out of 10, it's given like 6. And I need a 9-10.
That's a D.
Um, I need a 9-10. And
Yeah.
I want to be really hot for you, and I want them to be hot for me as well. And then on the flip side, I met another guy that I ended up having a little date with, impromptu, sporadic, spontaneous date, because I do love those as well. They often lead to a quick, like, can I come over session, which I'm not always in favor of, but it's okay, live your life. I ended up doing that with this one guy, and he's hot. He's so hot. He's young and the restless hot, and
Ooh.
I enjoyed
Ooh.
it. Yeah, and, like, we did a little bit of a dance because, like, we'd spoken months ago, and we did the FaceTime call, and we were gonna have a date, and then, like, you know how they pretend they wanna take you out, but they just really wanna get in your pants. And so it went nowhere, and we stopped talking, and then he popped up again, and we finally had a chance to meet. Well, he's hot in
Boomerang.
person.
I
He
bet.
boomeranged. We ended up hooking up, and it was nice. I was actually a little bit in my head about it because I broke some boundaries for that to happen.
Ooh.
And I don't love that. And
What
that's
were the
something that
boundaries you broke?
I'll meet you in person. We can have a drink. You're not coming over. We're not hooking up. And we did all those things.
I see.
He came over, we hooked up because I equate a lot of hooking up stuff as you get what you wanted after all this time. And then I'm the one left feeling with like having to pick up the pieces. And I believe that it's smart for a woman. This is my own personal experience. It's smart for me to go into it knowing that I just want to sleep with you and I don't care if I see you ever again. Whether I do or not has to be an issue. It has to be dealt with for me to feel safe.
Mm.
Because too many times I've slept with men thinking they'll stay, thinking they'll be like, oh, and then it's happened. It's actually happened. So I have to brief. I have to brief myself and I have to be like, oh, permission. I forgave myself. I'm good with it. And now I'm just in this world of like celibacy check, talk to someone check, dealt with some bullshit check. Now, wanting to have fun check. But I'm like, treatment has always been a number one thing for me. I want to be treated well, whether that's your time, your money, your dinner, whatever. It has to start off with really good treatment for me. I like experiences. I like nice things. I like nice dinners. It needs to start there at this point for me.
I love that.
I'm so glad women are realizing that men will fuck anything. Like like the gatekeeping of men,
That's just not where I thought you were going to go. And it took me by surprise. That was great. That's a
but like
soundbite.
I've lived through the era where like people actively say like, men will never sleep with a trans woman. They don't like that. They're not into that. You're a
Yeah.
man.
Bullshit.
And I'm like,
Bullshit.
they will sleep with your couch when you're not home. They're humping your couch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're
Yep.
humping your drawers and your underwear, and they're wearing your underwear. They're wearing your lingerie. They're wearing your wigs. They're wearing all your stuff. They're doing everything that you think that they wouldn't do.
Yeah. They're doing everything that's been stigmatized by society as being unmasculine. They're doing it all.
They're doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So give me something else.
Mila, you are an extraordinary woman. You're
Thank you.
beautiful, you're sexy, you're smart, you're so talented. All of my friends are these extraordinary women who have this thing in common where it's hard for them to find a man that meets them where they're at. It speaks to how excellent you are and how excellent a partner to you would need to be. And that is hard to find in a world that puts out these men.
Women have women have outmanned men, and like that's where we are, and like the women are doing it. The women are the most financially stable and smart, and Black women hold the most degrees in the world. Like,
Mm.
and it's like the men can't live up to that, and they don't know what to do with themselves. And I would say to them, if you're a man listening, it's so simple. You can start with the woman in front of you and you can give her a safe space and you can offer your time and your resources and your emotional vulnerability. That really is like, I think goes a long way. That's so important.
Mila, where can people find you and what would you like them to pay attention to as far as what
Everybody
you're
can find me
releasing now?
everywhere. I
Yeah, tell
am
us.
all over the place. Yeah, the Mila Jam is where you can find me on all my socials. TheMilajam. You can see me and listen to me on Spotify. My music is out there. I'm working on lots of new music. I have lots of singles and songs out there for you to stream and share and party to and dance with. And, my YouTube channel, Mila Jam Music, check out my music videos and all my content on there. I'm on the TikTok too, the Mila Jam. And I'm currently working on some new projects. I just returned from Sydney, Australia. I was doing Mardi Gras out there, which was unbelievable. I will
The
be doing some
photos were
Pride
incredible.
festivals coming up. I'm going to be in West Virginia in June doing Pride in West Virginia. And then I am going to be featured in the Netflix show Survival of the Thickest, starring Michelle Buteau. I think that
Yes.
comes out this summer. So look for your girl, truly. You will know it's me because I usually have pink hair. I'm not rocking my pink today because I wanted to keep it very low key. But you see the girl with the pink hair, that is me. And I'm looking forward to all the things that the universe is going to bring.
Yes, and may the universe shower you with the blessings you deserve. Thank you so much for talking with me today, Mila. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Samia, I love you truly. I thank you for giving me platform to speak. Thank you for your friendship and your sisterhood. And we will continue to bring the noise and bring the funk and just make it happen.
Yes.
Mwah.
Mwah.
Feeling so alive. So long till the sorry days. Yeah, bye bye bye.
I hope you all enjoyed that conversation as much as we enjoyed having it. And I feel like I need to say something here. We are in a moment when our federal government is being controlled by a party that has decided that persecuting trans people should be a central pillar of their policy decisions. I was just listening to an episode of This American Life that went into the story of a couple where one person is serving in the military and she's trans, and how they dealt with the executive order banning trans people from serving in the military. Which, if you've ever served in the military or if you have ever known a trans person, you know that that is just ridiculous. There's no reason for it. They're not a national security threat. They don't cause problems. They work just like everybody else does. And many of them have years and years and years of irreplaceable experience. And yet we're kicking them out for no reason other than who they are. This show is not about politics. And I try to focus on joy and fun and playfulness. I want to be a corner of your world where you get to forget about the horrors of everything once in a while and just enjoy fun, sexy conversations between fun, sexy people. But I would be remiss if I didn't speak out and speak up for the trans community and my trans friends. What our government is doing, what the Republican Party is doing to trans people is wrong. There's nothing wrong with being trans. It is the way God made many people, if you believe in God. If you don't believe in God, you probably don't think that trans people deserve this either. But if you do believe in God, I want you to think about what your God says about loving everyone. They work just like everyone else. They do their jobs. They don't tend to make waves because it's already fucking hard enough to be trans. So I have to say something. If you haven't spoken up publicly about trans rights and defending and protecting trans people from this ridiculous bigotry we're seeing, then do something. Say something. Offer a shoulder. Donate to an organization that serves the trans community. Make a Facebook post where you share something made by a trans artist. Make sure your trans friends know that you're willing to stand up for them. And if you don't have any trans friends, listen to more interviews like this one with trans people about what they go through on a daily basis and how much harder life has gotten since Trump 2.0 took over. All right. Thank you so much for listening. I fucking love you guys. I have to say the things now that I always say. Leave a review. We love you. We love you. We love you for leaving reviews. Leave comments on Spotify or YouTube if that's where you're watching or listening. Send me an email at happyslutcast@gmail.com if you'd like to be on the show or if you have feedback of any kind. And you can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I'm at samia.mounts on Instagram, at happyslutcast on Instagram and TikTok. Reach out to me in any of those ways if you've got something you want to say or a topic you want me to cover or anything really. I just love hearing from you. And finally, if you'd like to support the show financially, please consider subscribing to my Substack, samiamounts.substack.com. I release essays every Friday. Half of them are free, half of them are behind paywalls, but you always get a teaser, and the teasers are usually pretty juicy. Or you can send direct financial donations to me on Venmo at Samia-Mounts or Cash App at Samia Mounts. That's all for this week. Next week, I'm going to be bringing you Ali Bravo, the organizer of a birthday orgy that I attended in San Francisco last weekend. So if you want to hear more about that, tune in next week to Happy Slut. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. I love you. And enjoy the rest of your week, sluts. Bye.